Welcome to the deep dive. Grab your favorite mug because today we're taking a deep dive into something that touches most of our mornings.
Coffee.
It's quite a paradox right now, isn't it?
Uh,
Our sources reveal that the global coffee market is, well, it's a swirling brew of contradictions. You've got striking differences between what's happening locally in some places and the broader global trends.
Right. So our mission today is really to unpack these diverging paths for you. We want to understand the powerful forces at play, especially around global trade policy, and, highlight the surprising facts that explain why your morning cup might feel different soon.
And we've pulled from market reports, news articles, expert analyses,
Mhm.
trying to get the clearest picture possible.
Okay, let's unpack this then. What's particularly striking from our sources dated July 30, 2025, is this clear split. Locally, you look at places like Vietnam, and coffee prices are actually surging.
Surging is right. We're seeing increases pushing prices close to, what, 100,000 Vietnamese dong per kilogram. Exactly. Places like Dak Lak and Dak Nong hitting 98,000 Don Kiyang.
Yeah.
And to give you some context, that's a really significant jump. It's making it notably more expensive, for local consumers there.
Mm. And what's so intriguing, as you said, is that this local surge is happening while global coffee prices are actually dipping.
Yeah, dipping globally.
For instance, you look at the London Exchange Robusta futures contracts. Those are the agreements to buy or sell later saw. Modest dips for September and November 2025. Just small percentages, 0.39%,
That's
0.54%.
modest dips there.
But then, even more notably, on the New York Exchange, Arabica contracts, well, they fell more significantly. September down 1.72%, and December contracts dropped almost 5%, nearly 5%.
Wow, okay. So that really raises the crucial question. Why the global dip when local prices, like in Vietnam, are climbing?
That's the core paradox, isn't it?
It is. And the striking contrast, it's not just some market anomaly. It's a powerful illustration that local coffee markets often react to very specific domestic supply and demand pressures.
Right, while the global futures market is much more sensitive to these bigger macro trade policies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the big answer, it seems, for that global dip specifically, it looks like tariffs.
Precisely. Reports are definitely indicating significant market jitters. It's all this talk of a potential 50% U.S. tariff on Brazilian coffee, and it's set to begin August 1st, so it's looming.
50%, that's huge.
Oh, it is. And this discussion is just creating considerable uncertainty. We're seeing Brazilian farmers getting quite concerned, understandably, and traders are already slowing down their exports. They're sort of waiting to see what happens.
So what's the likelihood of this tariff actually taking hold? Is there any wiggle room?
Well, there might be. The U.S. Commerce Secretary did mention that goods not produced domestically might be exempt, so that offers, a glimmer of hope for coffee.
Okay, because the U.S. doesn't grow much coffee itself, right?
Very little. And it's important to note that coffee experts in the U.S. Congress are actively lobbying for an exemption. They're pointing out exactly that U.S. domestic coffee production, mostly Hawaii and Puerto Rico, it accounts for less than 1% of total consumption.
Less than 1%.
Yeah. Which means there just aren't viable local alternatives to replace imports, especially from a major producer like Brazil.
So, okay, hypothetically, if this tariff were to go through,
hmm
what does that mean for the broader market?
Well, Rabobank, they're a major player in agricultural finance. They've warned that a 50% tariff wouldn't just disrupt global coffee trade flows. It would also likely reduce U.S. demand quite significantly. It just really highlights how interconnected these global markets truly are. One policy decision, big ripples.
Big ripples indeed. And beyond just the trade policy, are there other factors? What about the actual coffee supply itself?
Yeah, our sources reveal some intriguing nuances there, too. On one hand, Brazil's largest coffee cooperative, Cucae, reports their harvest is a bit behind last year's pace, about 67% done by July 25th compared to 75% last year.
Okay, so slightly slower from them.
But then another report, this one from Safras and Mercado, suggests Brazil's overall harvest for the 2025-2026 season is actually ahead of its 5-year average. They're saying 84% complete.
So conflicting signals there on the Brazilian harvest pace.
A little bit, yeah. Depends on who you ask or maybe which specific segment they're looking at. And on a more positive note for overall supply, Uganda has reported some really strong numbers, over $2.2 billion in revenue, thanks to expanding their coffee production.
That's significant for Uganda. And what about stock levels? Where do things stand right now?
Well, as of early this week, inventories monitored by ICE, that's the Intercontinental Exchange, they show Robusta stocks have actually increased. They're at a one-year high, believe it or not.
A one-year high for Robusta. Interesting.
Yes, 7,029 DAGs. But Arabica stocks have gone the other way. They've fallen to a 3.5-month low, down to about 791,842 bags.
So different inventory pressures there, too. Robusta supply looks maybe a bit healthier than Arabica, at least in those monitored stocks.
Exactly. So you really have this fascinating push and pull, don't you? You've got local prices, like in Vietnam, reacting to very specific regional factors demand, maybe tight local supply,
Right.
while the global prices are largely being shaped by this huge cloud of uncertainty around trade policy, particularly that U.S.-Brazil tariff situation.
It truly shows how a single policy decision, or even just the talk of one, can ripple across continents. And it directly affects the market for such a, well, a beloved commodity.
Absolutely.
And for you listening, this really underlines how global economics can impact even the most everyday things, right down to your morning cup.
Which leads us to an important question for you to maybe ponder. With that August 1st tariff deadline looming just around the corner, what do you think? What will be the immediate and maybe the long-term consequences for global coffee prices, for trade flows?
And ultimately, yeah, for the cost and the availability of your next cup.
Definitely something to think about.
Something to rule on. Thanks for diving deep with us today.